Supermassive games are often built around the idea everyone can either die or survive, but this principle solely applies to the main characters. The side characters or antagonists often aren't as lucky. If the plot demands their demise, no amount of effort on the player's part is going to change their fate. Sometimes these deaths are an essential part of the plot or happen to someone you don't care much about, but there were also instances where I was genuinely worried and looked for ways to save them. Today, I'd like to look at all these characters and rank them based on how bitter the realization was that they couldn't be saved. There is one criteria for this list, and it's a big one. No characters who die in any of the openings, which is roughly a third of all characters who can't be saved. The opening deaths often set up the events of the game, or their deaths serve as a clear demonstration on what the villains are capable of. The stories would either miss too much or straight up be impossible to take place if you save these characters. Let's not waste any more time and start at the bottom. Augustine from The Casting of Frank Stone. In all honesty, if I were to make a video on all Supermassive characters ranked, Augustine is a contender for the very bottom. She sucks that much. Her entire goal and how she tries to achieve it makes zero sense. She wants to summon the entity, but no clear reason is ever given, other than it possesses all knowledge and she really wants some of that knowledge. What knowledge does it possess? Why is she this desperate to gain the knowledge? Is she not aware of the horrific consequences summoning the entity will have? Why, of all the ways to trick people into helping her summon the entity, does she have this convoluted plan of inviting them to a mansion with a vague letter and ask them to bring prized possessions to a shady stranger? The only reason anything works is because the main characters aren't the brightest in the bunch. Augustine is supposed to be the big mastermind behind the story, the pillar that holds everything together. But with her, the whole story crumbles. The future story, at least, I quite like the past story. Even if it was possible to save her, I sure wouldn't try. Dar from House of Ashes. From a character I actively dislike to a character I neither love nor hate. Dar is a small side character who was never meant to be a big part of the plot, hence why it's hard to really get invested in him. However, I quite like the duality of Dar and what he represents in the story. At first I thought he straight up went against the message of the story.
The enemy of my enemy
is a friend.
The enemy of our enemy is our friend.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Except this guy, he sucks. But at closer inspection, he is the only soldier who never shows any willingness to cooperate, resulting in his early death, emphasizing the importance of standing together to increase the chances of survival. Even though he is rather bland, the game added one little moment of humanity that shows there's more to this man than the cold general you briefly see.
It's funny how you can know someone for years and never really know them. I had no idea my captain was married.
Not a character where I felt awful about his death, but if the option was there to save him, I would have. Olsen from Man of Medan. Olsen is the only one of the villains who can't be spared under any circumstances. Junior can be spared if you played your cards right. According to the Dark Pictures wiki, Danny is only confirmed to die if he's left alone on the ship. But Olsen, even if he wins all the fights and everything is in his favor, still dies of a heart attack. Olsen is intimidating in the scenes he's in, all due to his menacing demeanor, compelling performance, and that damn eye. Not a high-quality villain, but gets the job done of being engaging when he's on screen. Man of Medan has some of the most diverse endings in the entire series, but an additional ending where Olsen gets away with everything would have been a cool downer ending. Come to think of it, there aren't that many Supermassive games that offer both a hero win and villain win ending. Most stories either end with the villains surviving regardless of your actions, or the villains die regardless of your actions. Would be cool to see more games that offer both types of endings. The Puritans from Little Hope. Little Hope is a story where I genuinely can't tell if it's widely misunderstood, and there is far more to it than is often given credit for. Or if the writers themselves didn't really know what they were doing and hoped it would all appear deeper than it is. The most sense I can make of it is that the Puritans represent Anthony's inability to do anything in the past, whereas the current events represent how he would do everything in his power to change things, if he were to be given a second chance. Him saving at least one person is symbolic of how he is over his survivor's guilt. accepted his efforts and his willingness to save his family. Or it's all nonsensical bullshit for the sake of a cheap plot twist. Either way, in the brief moments the Puritans appear, I felt sorry for them and tried to save them.
Look, there can be no more doubting. This is witchcraft. More stones.
Feeling bad when they inevitably get murdered. Whether their deaths are integral to a deeper meaning or their survival simply didn't make the cut due to a lack of priority. The Puritans were characters whose survival I wished for. Dumet's other victims from The Devil in Me. To make you feel bad for characters you actively follow in the story, even if it's brief, is one thing. To make you feel bad for characters you don't know at all is a different story. As you're figuring out just who Dumet really is and what really happens to his guests, it didn't take long before I was saying to the characters to get the hell out of there. In the one scene where you're actively in control of the life of Dumet's victim, there's nothing you can do to actually save him. Of his victims, the one that hit the hardest was Morello. He appears to be in cahoots with Dumet at first, only to find out he is just trying to save his family. Despite his efforts, he was just played like a puppet in a sadistic play. Regardless of any of your choices, the best you can do is make Dumet's current victims escape. In typical slasher horror fashion, Dumet survives any injury you inflict on him, no matter how fatal it must be, and he'll always find new victims. Maybe his next victims can break the cycle. Stan from the casting of Frank Stone. Stan is a shady scumbag, and to be honest, that's why I like him. It cracks me up how he has no shame, no regard for his actions. Stan is such a madman, he has the guts to stick around in a room with nothing but people who hate him, willing to take figurative and literal punches, like a pro.
Got some tang in that spine. Shut the fuck up.
The future storyline is messy and dull, with serious characters that mostly aren't interesting. So, to have a joking scumbag like him is a nice breath of fresh air. What I like regarding the fact that he cannot be saved is that there are multiple moments where you can protect him from dangers, giving the impression he can make it to the end. But if you pick all decisions to save him, even giving him the locket, he'll get axed off anyway.
Go fetch. Oh, crap.
After Sam, he was the future story character I wanted to survive the most. The other soldiers from House of Ashes. More specifically, Merwin, Clarice, and Joey. Merwin is such an over-the-top loudmouth, trying so hard to be edgy that it becomes funny. Joey is a bro who jokes around with Merwin.
Hey Merwin, what's your mama and the Bermuda Triangle have in common?
Why are you fucking it like?
They both swallow Marines.
Clarice is the least interesting of the three, but she's a loyal soldier who is tied to a moral choice. She's the only of the three to get infected, and you can choose to bring her along anyway, for the off chance you can save her. If you somehow repeatedly insist to keep her around, it will backfire spectacularly. Joey dies very soon in the story, and there is nothing you can do. Merwin and Clarice are tied to choices to keep them alive for longer. Of the three, Merwin's death definitely hits the hardest. Even when he's critically injured, he still has the guts to continue being a tough guy. If you were to pick all the right answers to keep him alive, he still gets abruptly gunned down by Dar. I was genuinely shocked when this happened, and felt bad after all the effort he still didn't make it. Good job, House of Ashes. 3 side characters that can't be saved, and they managed to make me feel bad for all of them.
Pick on someone your own kind. What the hell?
Kaylee Hacket from The Quarry. A character you never get to see and never get to know, dies off screen through means that are completely beyond your control. Yet her death is still a tough pill to swallow, and I wanted to prevent it. Her father, Chris, is a likable, friendly man. The mere idea of his daughter dying is a horrible fate you wouldn't wish upon him. Even the other Hackets, as messed up as they are, don't harm others unless things go south. Shooting their granddaughter, even if it was out of self-defense, isn't exactly something that comes lightly.
Not my granddaughter. Not my only granddaughter. Not my Kaylee. Not my little Kaylee. Not my little Kaylee. Not my little Kaylee. You goddamn piece of shit!
That's not even mentioning the fact that Kaylee herself, from the little things you get to know about her, appears to be an innocent person who just wants to live a normal life, but is forced to live with the werewolf curse. In the ending summary, where you see the fates of all characters, her corpse is shown with the message she got shot by Laura, suggesting you had a hand in her fate. But unfortunately, this is all a trick to make you believe you made a mistake. The only member of the Hacket family you can't spare under any circumstances, and I wish things were different. Jack Fiddler from Until Dawn. Jack Fiddler is loosely based on a real person, a shaman with the same name who lived in the 1800s and claimed to have defeated 14 Wendigos. Jack is also played by Larry Fessenden, one of the writers of Until Dawn, who previously wrote a Wendigo movie. To say Jack is experienced with Wendigos works on 3 different levels, and it's kind of amazing. At first, Jack is made out to be the masked murderer, but from the get-go, he appears harmless, reaching out to Hannah and Beth, or minding his own business in the moments Mike sees him. Jack is the only one who knows what's really happening on the mountain, and even is prepared to risk his life for strangers. Despite his willingness to help the group on numerous occasions, you never get the chance to return the favor. His death comes sudden, though. Shouldn't he see this coming after years of fighting Wendigos? There have been various theories on why this happens. Maybe it's simply because he was distracted by Chris, or it could be because Hannah turned into a Wendigo recently and is far stronger than the older and weaker Wendigos he's used to fighting, catching him off guard. That would also explain how Mike is able to survive a direct attack by multiple of the older Wendigos. Either way, he is the real MVP of Until Dawn. If anyone deserved survival, it's him. Bonnie from the casting of Frank Stone. The sister of Jaime, mother of Madison, and potential lover of Linda. Bonnie has all kinds of meaningful connections to the main characters. She's charismatic when she's on screen, offers genuine laughs, and even has a compelling conflict regarding the relation between her, Jaime, and her father. And then it all just kind of stops? Her death comes rather sudden. She was still in the middle of a potential romance with Linda, in an argument with Jaime, and there is the knowledge she'll grow up to become Madison's mother. But before any of that resolves, Frank kills her, and there is nothing you can do to prevent it. It feels like Supermassive made some big cuts regarding the past story, though I haven't stumbled into much information that confirms this. What we get now is a mostly forgettable future story combined with an entertaining past story that ends in a rushed fashion. A cool character who unfortunately never got her arcs resolved. And the character I wished you could save the most is Josh from the original Until Dawn. I don't care if this inclusion might not make sense. I don't care if he technically survives in the Wendigo ending, or the fact he can be saved now. It doesn't undo the 9 years, and in my case, 7 playthroughs where he couldn't be saved and it hurt to see him get a bad ending every time. A character whose survival was so highly requested, they straight up added a new ending in the remake where his survival is possible. If that isn't worthy of being on top of this ranking, I don't know what is. Josh is a character who succeeds in making you feel sorry for him, despite some horrific actions. Behind that horror, there is a person who didn't mean any genuine harm, but was mentally too far gone to grasp the severity of his actions. Upon reflecting on what he has done, regret can be expressed in the remake. I really like the new conversation Josh has with his therapist. In his mind, Josh is still seeking help, and he is still able to imagine what his therapist might say as a response, showing Josh still has enough of a grasp on reality to potentially change.
But they didn't hurt you, Joshua. Not intentionally. They made a stupid mistake, and a terrible tragedy befell your sisters. They did not intend for that to happen. It just did. And they were sorry, at least, until you subjected them to your night of horrific torture.
If Until Dawn were to get a sequel, I really hope Josh's survival becomes a canon ending. So those were the characters you can't save, ranked. Did you agree with the ranking or felt there were characters missing? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.